you.
Finally. My turn. How incredibly disappointing. When Odin sent me here, I just needed answers, but you had to act all proud. Throw whatever you have at me. I'll keep coming. That old body will give out. But before I end this, I want you to know one thing. I can't feel any of this. I'd hope that you, of everyone I'd faced, would finally make me feel something, but you can't.
About time. I've been waiting for this. You're not from here. We got a tradition called blood payments. It means I get a piece of you for what you took from my family. You'll pick it up. This feels familiar. I see why my sons fell to you. Even this lesser version of you. But I am not my sons. And your boy, Allfather, has plans for him. There he is. There's the god of war. Consider your blood debt paid. Be seeing ya.
Together.
Welcome to the channel of the most insane stories. If you are a lover of wars between the gods and surreal stories from the mythological universe, you will definitely go crazy here. Kratos has been searching for the path of redemption for a while now, but once he has been on the path of war, even after leaving it, ghosts from the past always appear, or in fact new ghosts are created. The story I start now is Kratos' adventure in Egypt, where new powerful gods appear. Without further ado, let's get straight to the point. Kratos walked aimlessly, feeling the weight of the journey that had ended and the new one that was beginning. Ragnarok had consumed everything around him, leaving scars not only on the world but also on his soul. Atreus had left to find his own path, and for the first time in a long time, Kratos was alone. The cold wind of the Nordic lands still blew against his skin, but his heart no longer belonged to that place. He had already fulfilled his role there. The remaining gods would probably never accept him, and he had no desire to remain either. It was time to leave. The journey to Egypt. Kratos' fate was decided not by a map, but by his own intuition. He sought neither glory nor blood, only peace. However, peace was not something he knew well. Every time he tried to find her, the world dragged him back to the war. Guided by an invisible force, he sailed to distant lands until he saw a different horizon, filled with golden dunes and colossal temples. Egypt rose before him, with its exotic beauty and ancient mysteries. Kratos felt like this was a place where he could start over, but as soon as he stepped onto the hot sand, something bothered him. The air was thick with a presence he knew well. He was being watched. The eyes of the Egyptian gods. Since his arrival, the gods of Egypt knew that Kratos was no mere mortal. The gods of that land were different from the Norse and Greek ones. They ruled through order and balance, following the principles of Ma'at, the harmony of the universe. But Kratos' presence upset that balance. Ra, the god of the sun, watched him from above, contemplating whether that warrior was a threat. Osiris, ruler of the underworld, pondered whether Kratos' soul should be judged. Set, the god of chaos, smiled, eager to test the stranger's power. Kratos, however, just continued forward, ignoring the invisible gazes and focusing on the objective that he wasn't sure what it was. He wanted peace, but he knew he would never find it easily. The first conflict. The city of Thebes was silent as Kratos passed through its streets. Men and women looked at him with curiosity and fear. His physical size, his scars, and the red blade on his body were clear signs that he was not ordinary. But not everyone was willing to accept him as a mere traveler. The priests of Sekhmet, the goddess of war and revenge, were the first to confront him. They believed that an unknown warrior setting foot on their land could only bring destruction. Armed with spears and shields adorned with sacred symbols, they tried to stop him from advancing. "Foreigner," one of the priests shouted. "You are not welcome here," Kratos didn't respond. He didn't want to fight, but he knew he had no choice. "Go away," he said in his deep voice, his hand closing on the handle of his weapon. The priests advanced, and the battle began. Even without wanting to fight, Kratos was a born warrior. His movements were precise and brutal. He disarmed the first enemy with a swing of his fist, and knocked the second down with a powerful kick. The third tried to attack him from behind, but Kratos quickly turned around and threw him against a wall. When the dust settled, the priests were down, groaning in pain. Then a new presence made itself felt. Something divine, something old. The arrival of Anubis. A cold wind blew through the city, and the shadow of an imposing figure appeared between the temple columns. Kratos looked up and saw a being with dark skin and glowing eyes, with the head of a jackal. He held a scepter and exuded an aura of power. "You do not belong to this kingdom, stranger," Anubis said, his voice echoing like a funeral whisper. Kratos faced the deity without fear. He had faced gods before. "I don't seek conflict," said Kratos. "Just a place to rest." Anubis tilted his head, assessing him. "Rest does not exist for those who carry the blood of gods in their veins," he stated. "You can't escape. What you are." Kratos felt the weight of those words. He wanted to deny it. He wanted to say that he was no longer the god of war. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. Egypt, like Greece and Asgard, would not give him peace so easily. And so Kratos' fate was sealed once again. He had arrived in Egypt seeking rest, but all he found was the beginning of a new battle. The message of Osiris. The hot desert wind was blowing hard, kicking up dust around Kratos and Anubis. The god of the dead maintained his imposing posture, his eyes shining with a golden light as he watched the Spartan. "You can ignore the priests. You can resist the strength of others. But the gods of Egypt are not like those you have faced before," said Anubis. Kratos clenched his fists, feeling the weight of each word. He had heard threats like this before. Always the same story, always the same war. "Say what you have to say, Jackal." Anubis didn't show any irritation. He just raised his staff and pointed to the horizon. "Osiris, Lord of the Underworld, sends you a message. You are not welcome here. Their mere presence upsets the balance we have governed for eons. You must bow or leave." Kratos let out a dry laugh, a sound full of tiredness and irony. "Leave," he murmured, looking at the immensity of the desert. "They always say that. But I was never good at obeying gods." Anubis tightened his hold on the handle of his scepter but did not attack. He was not an impulsive god like Ares or Thor. I knew Kratos was an unpredictable force. "Then Osiris will send those who will serve him. You will soon understand." With that said, the god turned and disappeared into the sandstorm that was forming around him. The ambush in the village. Kratos continued forward, leaving the ruins and temples behind, until he reached a village hidden between dunes and dry palm trees. It was a humble place, with mud and straw huts, a small market and residents who walked around with downcast eyes, avoiding eye contact with anyone who seemed dangerous. As soon as Kratos entered the village, he felt fear permeate the air. He was no stranger to this kind of reception, but here was something different. It wasn't just him that inspired terror, but something bigger. "They are afraid of the gods," he muttered to himself. The smell of spices and dust hung in the air as he stood next to a fountain, trying to hydrate himself. But it was then that he noticed the sudden silence around him. People moved away and disappeared into their homes. The sound of heavy footsteps approached, and Kratos looked over his shoulder. A group of warriors covered in golden and dark blue armor surrounded him. Their faces were covered by masks that resembled the faces of jackals and hawks. They were the servants of Osiris. "The stranger must come with us," said one of them, pointing a spear in Kratos' direction. The Spartan remained motionless. His gaze assessed each of the warriors. They were not mere soldiers. They had a different presence, almost as if they were blessed by the god of the underworld himself. "I don't follow God's orders," Kratos said, his voice firm. "Then die here, far from your home," replied the warrior before attacking. The fight against the warriors of Osiris. The first blow was quick, but Kratos dodged it, spinning to the side and smashing his fist against his opponent's chest. The armor broke with a crash, and the warrior was thrown against the wall of a hut. The others rushed forward at the same time, trying to crush him with curved blades and golden spears. Kratos drew the Leviathan axe and spun, cutting one of the attackers in half. His warm blood mixed with the sand. One of the warriors tried to surprise him from behind, but Kratos had already anticipated the attack. He drew the blades of chaos and enveloped the enemy in flaming chains, burning him until his body was nothing but ashes. The people of the village watched in terror. They didn't know who Kratos was, but they saw that he was fighting against those who had long oppressed them. The last two warriors hesitated, realizing they were facing a force beyond their understanding. But hesitating in front of Kratos was the same as signing one's own death warrant. He charged forward, smashing one against the ground and breaking the other's neck in one brutal movement. Silence took over the village. The villagers' eyes were wide, filled with fear and doubt. Kratos didn't need to ask. He already knew the answer. Those people did not live under the protection of the gods of Egypt. They lived under the terror they imposed. The declaration of war. Kratos said nothing as he cleaned the blood off the Leviathan axe. He looked at the bodies of the warriors of Osiris and then at the sky reddened by the setting sun. He knew what would happen next. Osiris would not accept this affront. Other gods would come. He could run away. I could leave that land behind and head to another destination. But something inside him burned again. The anger, the revolt against divine tyranny. He walked to the center of the village and looked up, as if speaking directly to the heavens, where the Egyptian gods watched him. "If you want war, I'll give it to you," he said, his voice echoing between the houses. The villagers trembled. They knew what was coming, and Kratos knew that this was just beginning. Continues. This is the beginning of Kratos' new journey. A great battle is coming, and fierce enemies will be brought. Will Kratos be able to get out of this alive and even then defeat all those who challenged him? Click the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. Until the next video. Bye.